You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we are talking to Carlos Xuma. Carlos Xuma is a dating and attraction advisor, as well as a motivational and life counselor. You've probably heard of him from his appearances on ABC television, his appearance at the Cliff's List Convention seminar, as well as his interview with David DeAngelo. He is the author of The Dating Black Book, Secrets of the Alpha Male, and many other articles and self-improvement programs. He also produces a weekly podcast available on iTunes, a regular newsletter, and his own blog. Carlos brings to the table a variety of life experiences, including a background in relationship skills, life coaching, motivational psychology, sales, management, martial arts, teaching and instruction, technology and engineering, Eastern philosophy, the psychology of achievement, and music. Yes, we could probably call him a bit of a Renaissance man. Carlos's self-proclaimed mission is to bring men and women together through awareness of both our traditional and contemporary gender roles. He conducts workshops and in-field training sessions, as well as group seminars. He can be reached at www.datingdynamics.com. Welcome to Frank Talks, Carlos.
Hey, Frank.
All right. Let's get right into the interview. Carlos, let's start off with some basic questions. Where were you born? And tell me a little bit about your upbringing, which eventually led you to running your own website and your own business.
I was born in upstate New York, actually, not too far away from you guys. I'm out on the California coast now, but I grew up in a rural area outside of Rochester, New York, in an apartment complex, which I think really, the more I look back on it, actually helped in terms of my social development. You know, I interacted with a lot of kids. The apartment complex was a high-density environment. There was a lot of units there, a lot of different kids. So I was constantly interacting socially, not only with boys and girls, but just about everybody in the area. And also had what I would consider a strong father figure. My dad was what you call a classical Italian, very, very masculine, very strong-willed. And I remember distinctly this moment when I was a kid. I could have been more than maybe 6 or 7 years old. Was in front of the TV, and my dad was flipping through stations, and he came across the movie that was on, and he said, "Here, sit down and watch this. So you can see this." And it was the James Bond movie. I think it was Diamonds Are Forever. And that was kind of like an indelible moment in my childhood in terms of really establishing what a male role model was versus a feminine or a more passive, more maternal role than my mom was. But I had a good understanding of gender roles. I think I was lucky in that respect.
It sounds like with your father being the typical Italian, I came from an Italian background myself, so you always have that strong dominance in the family. And when you talk about contemporary gender roles, how do you relate that to your own upbringing?
It was hard to hear you. Can you say it again?
Let me try that again. I'm very curious about your mention of contemporary gender roles, because you're talking about traditional gender roles, contemporary gender roles. It sounds like you grew up where you had some traditional gender roles as your examples. Let's talk about some of the contemporary gender roles and how they're different.
Well, I think guys are getting a lot of negative images, mostly from the media. The thing we have to keep in mind is that the media itself caters to its market. It's driven by money and who watches it, and a lot of misperceptions are out there in terms of what masculine means today. As a matter of fact, I think for a lot of people, even a lot of women that don't know better, masculine itself bears a negative connotation. Think of it as being the old classical macho stereotype, the aggressive male, the not so emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent side. One of the things I was trying to do with my alpha man archetype and model is really give men a new ideal in terms of their own development. We're not talking about regressing into what guys used to be, because that's no longer a good standard either. Even the James Bond model has limitations. What we've got to do is evolve to the next level, which is really to take the classical, the best parts of being masculine, and add on new qualities, things like emotional intelligence, social awareness, savvy, being cunning, being able to really not manipulate, but really control social situations to your benefit, just a whole new skill set that I don't think guys have really grown up understanding and really know how to use.
It being the new year, New Year's resolutions are made, especially for guys who spent New Year's Eve alone. If they grew up with the type of environment that you're talking about, the type of environment where maybe they didn't have the best examples of traditional gender roles and such, what's a good place to start? What type of products do you put out that can help guys start off?
That's a good question. I mean, at the start of the year, you have this new, fresh mindset. You want to get active on a whole new path. One of the things I advise guys to do is, first of all, don't make resolutions. Resolutions are a self-defeating trap. It's a fad more than anything else. What I really counsel guys to do is goal setting. You can have anything you want in life if you want, just help enough other people get what they want. It's something that I've heard said many times. And one of the things you have to do for yourself is set goals in all areas of your lifestyle. And these can be something that you can do and typically should do at the start of the year. I just got through doing mine. Set financial goals, set recreational goals, spiritual goals, career goals, dating and seduction, attraction goals, family and health and fitness, different goals for every part of your lifestyle. The reason you gotta really set this and get on this kind of path is if you're part of a successful lifestyle, if you're on your way somewhere, that's what's going to really be attracting women in the long run. That communicates, it permeates every part of your personality. Every part of your conversation is going to have the flavor of a person who's going somewhere in his life. So one of the products that I've created that helps guys in that path is my Secrets of the Alpha Man program, which really does go through this whole goal-setting process in a lot of details and helps guys really get in touch with what I feel they need to, which is their own personality, their own passions, their own lifestyle, because that's what's going to make it a lasting change to their life. You can learn any number of techniques out there, but it's not going to do any good if you can't make it part of who you are. Because there's really only one difference between the guy who's successful and the one who isn't. It's the guy who's studying. There's a guy who's studying the art of attraction, and there's the one who's going to read it and still sit at home not getting laid. And it's his willingness to act. That's the differentiation right there. The one that's going to make the difference between his success and his failure. It's doing something and doing it regularly. Stay motivated. Make it a part of your. Make it a habit, a lifestyle.
Carlos, we got to take a commercial break. You're listening to Frank Talks.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquest, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
You want to learn new things? Want to meet new people? Want to discover real possibilities? Listen to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles in Making the World a Better Place. Be sure to visit our website at www.franktalks.com for the most up-to-date information and the latest downloads of programs just like the one you are listening to now.